For our first presentation today, we have Phil Murdoff from the Construction Services. Phil graduated from NDSU with a civil engineering degree in 1991. He is a registered professional engineer in North Dakota and has worked for the department for over 28 years. Phil is a fan of NDSU, Concordia College, and Century High School sports. Welcome, Phil.
All right, thank you, Sharon. Hope everybody can hear me just fine. And good afternoon and welcome everybody to the second series in our 2020 Construction and Project Development Conference. You know, when we started planning our conference about a year ago, we never anticipated delivering it like this. And I guess I really do miss seeing all of you. You know, it's always a time that I enjoy when everybody's able to get together at the Construction OPD conference and seeing everybody. But hopefully next year we'll be back and able to do that again like we've done in the past. But, you know, this is sure a good alternative for considering, you know, the situation we're in now. So we'll just go with it. You know, there are a number of people that put a lot of time and effort in with the planning and delivering this conference. And I don't really have time to thank all of them, you know, but the two that probably deserve the most credit are Sharon Taylor and Matt Linneman from our materials office, our materials and research division. So thank you, Matt and Sharon, for all the work you've done to put this together, especially once we decided to move to this online environment. And then also, before I get started, I wanted to thank Sheila Kitson from our office. Sheila helped put together my presentation for today, so thank you, Sheila. Okay, so let's get started here. Now on the slide, you should be seeing a slide of the Construction Services Division organizational chart. Just want to highlight a few changes that have occurred since last year, since the last time I spoke at the Construction OPD conference. First thing to highlight is we reorganized our office a little bit. We went from 4 sections to 2. So we now have 2 sections. And as you can see in the contracts and records management section, Lance Bargman is the head of that. And then for our engineering and contract services section, David Bruins leads that. Another big change that happened over the last year is that the construction pool was eliminated. We no longer have a construction pool at the department. I know many of you are familiar with our pool, and maybe some of you even worked in the construction pool at one time, you know, when you started your career or something. So unfortunately, but that was just something the department had to do in terms of, you know, when we're looking at some staffing cuts and things like that. But and then the other thing I wanted to highlight was we have 3 people that are new to our office since last year. And so they are Doug Peterson, Scott Clausen, and Josh Jokum. They're now all 3 part of the construction services team. So welcome to them. And they've all been here nearly a year. And so it's not like they're brand new, but they're new since the last time we talked. You know, compared to other state DOTs, you know, we have one of the smallest construction offices. You know, however, the quality and volume of work that, you know, the 11 people here do, it's pretty amazing. So I'm so thankful every day for all their hard work and dedication. All right, let's move on to the next slide here. I'm going to talk briefly about, you know, the department's construction program. You know, here, this chart shows our history back 10, 11 years or so, back to 2010. And, you know, probably the area you want to focus on is 2020, right? What does 2020 have in store for us? As you can see, it's trending pretty similar to where we have been the last 3 or 4 years. The graph shows it at about 350 million. I do think it's going to probably end up being a little closer to the $400 million mark by the time this construction season is over with. You know, we got some ER work that the department is looking to bid out, and you know, with some of the carryover work from last year, we're probably going to be, you know, right around that $350 to $400 million range. So, you know, again, another busy summer, another productive summer, a lot of high profile, you know, much needed projects going on this year. So, you know, we're really looking forward and and it's starting out pretty well, weather-wise. So we're looking forward to having a nice, productive and construction season this year in North Dakota. So next, I want to talk about some project record pitfalls. By the way, did anybody ever finish the pitfall game? I mean, did anybody ever make it to the end? I never did. If you did, maybe you could let me know what's at the end, but I was never that good, so I never made it to the end. But that's what I want to talk about, pitfalls, project record pitfalls. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is, in terms of that, is the fuel cost adjustment provision. And you should be seeing on the slide right now, a slide about fuel cost adjustments. It's got a little bit of data statistics out there for our 2019 construction season. So in 2019, we paid out about $500,000 in fuel cost adjustments, and we were also reimbursed about $244,000 in fuel cost adjustments. So, I mean, as a lot of you know, the fuel cost adjustment in North Dakota is both positive and negative. We can pay out, and the contractors can reimburse the department, depending upon how, if they participate and how the price of fuel fluctuates. So, and I'm sure most of you know, the fuel cost adjustment program in North Dakota, it's a voluntary program for the contractor. They do not have to decide at the time of bid, but when they do decide is at the time of the contract execution. So when the department sends a contract out to a contractor, that's the point where they need to decide if they're going to participate in the fuel cost adjustment provision or not. And that's probably the first pitfall that I want to talk about is, you need to, as a project manager, it's important that you check the contract proposal and verify whether the contractor did or did not participate in the fuel cost adjustment provision. This past year, there were a few times where we got final records that, came into our office, the construction office, and the contractor had elected to participate in the fuel cost adjustment, but no fuel cost adjustment calculations had been performed. So, it's important that you know whether the contractor has elected to participate or not, so that you can be making, the monthly fuel cost adjustments as the SP requires. The other pitfall to watch out for is that in accordance with the special provision, fuel cost adjustments are not made, even if the contractor when the contractor elects to participate, the fuel cost adjustments are not made if the project is in liquidated damages. So we also had a few projects where calculations were made even though the project was in liquidated damages. That should not be happening. There is no fuel cost adjustment, either positive or negative, if the project is in LDs. The last little pitfall I wanted to note is that it's very important when you enter your pay quantities into cars, your pay quantity entries, that they are dated for when the work occurred. Not necessarily when the PQE is entered into cars, because that may be a different date. You may be entering the PQE later than when the work was actually done. So it's important that you enter the PQE or date it for when the work was done, because like I'm sure most people know, the fuel cost adjustment is based off of when work is done in certain months and the fuel price for those months. Moving on to the next slide, still talking about some potential pitfalls. Just want to talk briefly about documentation. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because in a future session, actually next week, I believe, both David and Lance from our office are going to discuss some of this in more detail. But just highlight a few things. So speaking of diaries, and this could be both the project engineer's diaries or inspection diaries, just things to keep in mind are, make sure the diaries are done timely. Keep them up to date. Don't let it get away from you. Keep the diaries up to date and done timely. Stick to the facts. That's very important. Don't add a lot of commentary or opinions in there. Just stick with the facts. And another important thing that people should be doing is recording, in your diaries, conversations with contractors or directives given to contractors, or even things that you hear from the contractor. Those are all important things that should be documented in a diary. And Section 3 of the Construction Records Manual gives some more guidance on what to put in and not put into your diary. So you should feel free to review Section 3 of the Construction Records Manual as well. Moving on to pay quantity entries. What I want to mention here in terms of a potential pitfall is that the system, the CAR system and the PQE system, it's really designed to have a check and balance system with it. So right now, if one person is creating and then checking and then also submitting the same PQE to the estimate, there's a good chance, that if that person made a mistake when they created the PQE, it won't get caught. It's sort of difficult to catch your own mistakes. But if you're using the system the way it was intended, if someone other than the originator or creator of the PQE checks it, the likelihood of that mistake being caught is going to be much greater, and it's just going to make for better or overall better project records down the road. And that's pretty much the same thing with contract adjustments that I wanted to say. As far as time charges, the only thing I want to highlight there is that it's important that we follow and enforce our schedule specification. Our schedule specification is found in section 108.03 of the standard specifications. Having complete, up-to-date schedules, along with all the other documentation, resource loading that goes along with it, that stuff is all important. So make sure it's being, the contractor is being required to do that in accordance with the spec, and it's being enforced. When it comes to evaluating time, whether you get a time extension, whether you have change orders, those sorts of things, it's going to be very useful to have all this information that's required by our schedule specification. Okay, that's about all I had on the pitfalls. Let's move on to some recent accomplishments and changes that our office has been working on. And you should be seeing 3 items here on the screen. One talking about DocuSign, another talking about contract proposals, and the last talking about online bidder pre-qualification. So as the slide comes up here, let's talk a little bit about DocuSign. So the department recently started using DocuSign for DOT. So these would be the department highway construction contracts. Not for the local agency construction contracts, but just the department construction contracts. And quite honestly, this has been a game changer. I mean, this has been just great. It's been amazing. So we started using DocuSign for our construction contracts with our December 2019 bid opening. We only had one project on that bid opening, but we've been using it since then. And as I'm sure most of you know or all know, that prior to this, our contract process was all a paper and ink signature process. So on the slide here, you can see a couple of statistics, and just to explain those a little bit to you. The 22.5 days prior to DocuSign, that is the time that it took from award to contract execution. And that's just based on the November 2019 bid opening. So what I did is, we went in and we looked at, so just for the DOT contracts that were in the November bid opening, November 2019 bid opening, and roughly around a dozen or 15 projects, from the date that project was awarded until that paper contract was fully routed, sent out in the mail to the contractor, to the bonding company, back to the DOT through all of its review at the DOT. It took on average 22.5 days for that process to get completed. Whereas fast forward now to February 2020, which is really the first large bid opening where we were using DocuSign on our DOT contracts, the average for the DOT contracts on the February 2020 bid opening was 7 days. So that's 7 days from once our Deputy Director for Engineering, Ron Hankey, makes the decision to award a project. 7 days from then, the contract is fully executed using DocuSign. And I sort of expect that 7 days is going to go down. Actually, our most recent bid opening here on April 17th, I was just looking at some of the projects from last, that were awarded, and we sent the contracts out last week through DocuSign. We got some of those back in already within 3 days. Within 3 days of sending the contract, it routed to everybody, contractor, bonding company, back through the DOT in 3 days. And so I expect this 7 days average will go down as contractors and bonding companies get more familiar with DocuSign. It's not to say that it's complicated, because it really is actually pretty simple. But with anything new or different, there's just a learning curve. So I guess really what I want to leave people with this, and really speaking to the LPAs, the cities and counties right now, I would highly encourage you to check out DocuSign, or I guess any electronic signature document processing program that may be available to you. But I would highly encourage something like that. Not only does it speed up the contract execution process tremendously, but it can also save you some money. We're not having to mail out, purchase envelopes, postage, staff time mailing things out. And, but again, the big savings is in the speed. And, if we can save a few weeks on the front end here in the spring, and allow a few more weeks in the back end, in the fall, to complete a project, that's going to pay potentially huge dividends in the fall. So, LPAs, if you're interested, you can sure contact me. Not that I know everything, but I can put you in touch with the people at the department here that are more of our DocuSign experts, and they can maybe help you out or walk you through what it took or how we got this going. Moving on to the next slide, talk a little bit about contract proposals. So this is another change that occurred with our February 2020 bid opening. So just a couple months ago, as of February 2020, our office is no longer mailing out the contract proposals. So when I say a contract proposal, what I mean is, that's the bidder's proposal, or we call it the request for proposal, that the contractors use prior to the bid opening. So then after the bid opening, once the contract is executed, the contract and the contractor's unit prices get put in the proposal, and that becomes our contract proposal. And we used to mail that out, and we would mail it to the districts or LPAs if they were involved in the project, federal highway, other engineering divisions. We still do mail one copy to the prime contractor, but we're looking to phase that out soon. But for everybody else, we're no longer going to mail these out. They're available on our website. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the DOT website. We've actually been posting them on our website since 2013, and they're at the same location where the contract plans are. So contract plans, contract proposals, you can go all the way back to 2013 and find them on our website. Search for them through our website. So this is a change that we just implemented a couple months ago. Now, if you have a big problem with this, I guess you can probably blame my kids for it, because sort of interesting. I have 2 kids, a son and a daughter. I have another one who's in high school, but my 2 oldest, my son and daughter, they're in college now, and they were home over Christmas break just earlier this year, just a few months ago, and they were looking at their bank accounts online, and they saw this charge on there where they're getting charged for $3 for a paper statement, and they're going, "Dad, what's this $3 paper statement charge on our accounts?" I said, "Well, that's the paper statement that we get in the mail each month. You need that so you can balance your checkbook." And they go, "Well, we don't even have a checkbook, Dad. We have a debit card and Venmo. Why do you need a checkbook?" I said, "Well, even if you don't have it, that's fine. But even if you don't have a checkbook, you still got to know how much money you have in your account. That's why you need to get your statement." "Well, but Dad, it's all online. You can just, log in on your phone and you can see your entire account and you can see the statement online. So again, why are we getting charged $3 for this bank statement that we never look at?" And you know what? They were right. It was a good point. So I canceled my paper statements too, saving me $3 a month. But what it did is it caused me to think about, what are we doing at work here, and how this translates to work, and why do we need to be spending money at the DOT mailing out paper documents when they're all online? So that's what we did. they're all online. They're free to everybody. You know, you can go out there, you can open them. You can, if you really want to print them, you know, I guess you can print them yourself. But they're all available online now. Okay. Next thing, online bidder pre-qualification. So I'm just going to briefly touch on this. You know, at the North Dakota DOT, you know, a bidder needs to be pre-qualified to bid on a project. And in the past, this was a paper application process. Now, for the last 2 years, we've been running the dual system where we have allowed both paper and online electronic submission of applications. And the program we use is the B2G Now program, which, you know, it's the same program that the department uses to manage its DBE program. But now in 2020, we are now requiring all bidders to use the online the online service to submit their pre-qualification application, which it's been good. It's actually gone really well, and haven't had a lot of issues there. It's really cut down on the paperwork that we receive in our office. Getting close to the end here, so let me advance to the next slide. Just going to touch briefly on future initiatives. So as the slide comes up here, these are some of the future initiatives that our office is involved with. We're not necessarily the lead on all of them, but we're pretty heavily invested, have a vested interest in all of these. Now these things are in various stages of development. You know, there's been a lot of collaboration going on with the districts and other engineering divisions and North Dakota IT on these items. But they're things that we're really excited about, you know, all 4 of these things. You know, they all have the potential to transform and reinvent the way the department does business. You know, digital asset management, you know, what we're talking about there is potentially developing a system that would be a GIS-based system and starting out for photos and videos and those sorts of things. And, you know, we're just getting started on that, and we got a lot of work to do, but, you know, potentially that's the vision where I think a lot of us at the department would like to get to. So that's sort of exciting. E-ticketing, you know, we're ready to do some of that right now this season. I mean, the COVID-19 pandemic has really exposed that there are better ways to handle tickets, material tickets out on our projects, and e-ticketing is one of those ways. So if there's people out there that are interested in e-ticketing, they can work with our office. You know, we're already working with a couple of districts, and hopefully we can get something going this year. We don't have anything for sure, but I think we have some good potential on a few projects. So e-ticketing is something that we hope to have running up soon here. As far as UAS drone applications, you know, we're working with the districts and Russ Buchholz's division on developing some of those. And then the materials management system, you know, that's primarily materials and research that's taken the lead on that, but, you know, our office is in full support of that. We see that there is a great need for that, so we're in full support of the department at some point in the future being able to implement something like that as well. So I guess, you know, that's really all I had for today. I guess I really do thank everybody for your attention, and at this point, I guess if we have any questions, I could sure try and answer them. I know Jeff is on the line. I don't know if we got any questions, Jeff, or anything like that.
Great presentation, Phil. No questions were posted, so perfectly thorough presentation.
Hopefully there's still people on here. No, but okay, well, thank you then, and I guess we can move on to the next presenter, right?
We can give it just a minute. Does anyone have any questions they want to add? This is kind of, we'll give you about a minute, and if not, I think, Phil, you must have answered everybody's potential questions.
Phil, if you want to fill up the time here, maybe you want to give them an update on, you know, we told you named your dog Diggs a couple of years ago at the construction conference. Where does that stand now?
Well, I have not become a Buffalo Bills fan, I can tell you that. we call him Thielen occasionally, but you know, he just sort of stares at us and doesn't really know what to think. So yeah, we're sort of in a quandary here. I'm not sure what we're going to do.
We did get a question, Phil. Are there any COVID-19 guidelines for construction this year?
Yes, that is a good question, and the department has put together some guidelines. They have been sent out to all the districts. So, you know, if you're working, you know, whoever you are, if you're in a district office, you know, you can reach out to your construction coordinator, assistant district engineer for those guidelines. And if you're an LPA, you could contact your local district as well, or a consultant, you know, to contact your local district, and they can send them to you. And if not, you can contact myself, and we can email them out to you as well. So